So in my top 10 Treehouse of Horror segments, I omitted all 3 segments from Treehouse of Horror 3, and I explained that I have seen the episode a lot. However, I also mentioned that I wanted to do a little separate follow-up video focusing specifically on this episode. So here we are. The earliest age I remember seeing this was at 5 or 6 years old. I mean, I probably saw it before, but that's really where I remember it being implanted in my head. It was a captivating episode as a child. It was my first exposure to the concept of zombies, something I would love and then grow weary of in my later years, as well as exposure to what I personally think are some of the most memorable jokes in the entire Simpsons franchise.
Hey, I heard we're going to Ape Island.
Yeah, to capture a giant ape. I wish we were going to Candy Apple Island.
Candy Apple Island? What do they got there?
Apes, but they're not so big.
Now, I can't be 100% on this. My memory of early childhood is usually very good, but with this I'm drawing a blank. However, I am pretty sure Treehouse of Horror 3 is the first Simpsons Halloween special I ever saw. And yes, I still call the early ones the Simpsons Halloween special, not Treehouse of Horror. Fucking sue me. And on that note, I think I have seen this episode more collectively in my 30 years of living than any other Simpsons Halloween special to date. And that is mainly because of the nature of watching shows in syndication. Like, I hate to keep beating this dead horse, but nowadays you have streaming services, and even before that, most Simpsons fans picked up the DVD seasons as they were released. So you can really pick and choose what episodes you make yourself sick of. But in the 90s and early 2000s, it was on 5 to 6 times a day across multiple channels, and you probably were able to see every episode multiple times within a year. It wasn't like today where there were 9 really good seasons and then 20-something seasons of crap. Nah, some networks only really had seasons 1 to 4, 1 to 5, and so forth. Like, it expanded with every season that aired new, but you know what I'm getting at here. I'd actually really like to talk about the experience of syndicated Simpsons in a later video. Like, I still remember every channel and every time slot that The Simpsons aired in from when I was 6 years old until I was in high school. We basically had to gamble to catch an episode we liked. We didn't know the order. We didn't go online and get episode guides. Hell, we didn't even know the actual titles of certain episodes. We would literally just call them the Gabbo one, for example. It was like a roulette if you were going to catch an episode you really liked or not. And if you missed it, you'd hear about it at school the next day. Like, you'd show up and your friend would be like, "Oh man, did you see The Simpsons last night? It was fucking the Gabbo one." It's like, "Oh, I missed it. I was grocery shopping." And then, you had to wait a couple months to see it again. Treehouse of Horror or Halloween specials, whatever you want to call them, were literally like pulling a legendary skin out of a loot box. I remember legitimately getting excited when it was literally any of them airing in syndication, even the first one, especially like in the middle of fucking March. Like, usually around Halloween season they would just air them in all the syndication slots for the month, but during the year at this point they just kind of aired whenever they would air in order of seasons. So running into a Halloween special was always a treat. At one point in time, even when there were 6 more Treehouse of Horror episodes around, Treehouse of Horror 3 was in fact my favorite Simpsons Halloween episode. I absolutely loved the Clown Without Pity, I thought King Homer looked cool and had funny jokes, and I thought Dial Z for Zombies was like really fun. I had never seen a zombie movie before. And this episode aired relatively often, probably 2 or 3 times or even more than that a year at its peak, not including the Halloween season airings. I even owned it on the Simpsons Halloween tape. I even fucking recorded it off TV on a blank tape with my VCR. When I got season 4 on DVD, I watched the shit out of it. Season 4 is, pound for pound, probably my favorite season. Sorry, Bill Oakley. I can comfortably say that in my 30 years on this earth, I have witnessed Treehouse of Horror 3 probably more than 100 times. I hate to say it, but I'm kinda sick of this episode. Hence why none of the segments made it into my recent top 10 video. I have just seen them too many times to the point where it has negatively affected my opinion of them. But I don't think they're bad. I still think they are some of the greatest Simpsons stories ever made. It's just personal preference kicked in at this point. So if I'm so fucking sick of this episode, why the fuck am I doing a video on it? Well, here's the thing. Sometimes when I'm bored in my spare time, I read wiki or TV tropes, usually before bed or on the toilet, and after cross-referencing with the official commentary track on the season 4 DVD, I discovered Treehouse of Horror 3 has a very interesting production note. It apparently was not supposed to be this way. Treehouse of Horror 3 apparently was completely overhauled with 6 weeks to air. This intrigued me. It made me wonder, made me think, could there be a completely different Treehouse of Horror 3 out there somewhere? The Simpsons is very secretive with its unused concepts, and I imagine they're even more secretive of any possibly unreleased material. As a matter of fact, literally all the information I could find was the same old story. It came in, it looked weird, there was issues, it tested bad with the writing staff, they decided to just redo it. But it didn't explain to what degree they decided to redo it. I literally scoured the internet for anything relating to this and yielded no real results other than what I just mentioned. Eventually I just kind of pushed it down, forgot, let it go, until around this year when I was doing my top 10 Treehouse of Horror segments. This time I decided to just go straight to the source and try to put my noir mystery arc to rest. I first approached season 7-8 showrunner Josh Weinstein and Bill Oakley with my question. Having had positive interactions with Oakley and learning that he started on season 4 drew me to him first. Unfortunately, he was unable to provide any information that was beneficial to my cause, but he was able to point me in the right direction, to Al Jean and any other writing staff but him. I first decided to approach Al Jean, who is one of the only, if not the only person I've mentioned that is actually still on board with the series. Not going to talk about my opinion on that, but regardless, I did not expect a direct reply. I tried Mike Reese, but again, nothing. So I decided to go for Jake Hogan, who had worked on several of my favorite episodes in season 4. And we hooked our first lead. Took some refreshing of his memory to really get anything, but by then, I had finally caught Al Jean's attention. I just want to say, God bless Twitter. Back in the day, the only way I would have even been able to get any information on this would be at a convention, which, at this day and age with COVID, is not a thing in Toronto right now. By reaching Al Jean, I was able to finally quell my ADHD-induced temporary obsession, and what I learned was, kind of anticlimactic. There was not some weird, mysterious, lost Treehouse of Horror episode running around somewhere in the vault. There were no unmade segments, it didn't contain the Friday the 13th parody that I'd been hoping for, nor the Psycho parody with Skinner. The original Treehouse of Horror 3 was apparently just bad animation and bad writing. In fact, it had been compared to a season 1 episode. I don't know exactly how far along it got, but I imagine they at least recorded for it. They at least had an animatic, if not a fully animated episode. As it stands, the writing staff saw it, and it was a fucking disaster, so they decided to just rewrite the entire episode and, I imagine, cut and reanimate some scenes. So the original cut is not all that different in terms of structure from what I understand, but its humor, writing, and animation is a little different. But honestly, I was told that I wouldn't want to see it, but I kind of fucking do. First off, I want to see what a Treehouse of Horror episode would look like if it was done for the first season, which is how these writers described this unreleased version. Secondly, just knowing that there's another version of an episode of The Simpsons that was a big part of my childhood may exist piques my curiosity. It's a have-to-know type situation. Even if it is complete fucking garbage, you telling me that I don't want to see it actually had a backfiring effect because I want to fucking see it. If, of course, it still exists. Knowing what I know now, based on the info given to me by the writers, who apparently don't remember a whole lot, it's been a long time for them, I can kind of see what was going on in the original product through the episode they actually aired. There's a few scenes where you can tell they recorded new lines. There's a few scenes where you could tell the animation was fucking jank. It's interesting. Also worth noting that this is the second to last Treehouse of Horror episode with wraparound segments, and was the last to have wraparound segments embedded into the actual quote-unquote canon of the episodes. I feel I should also point out that Treehouse of Horror 1 and 2 had a conclusion to their wraparound segments. Treehouse of Horror 3 literally just fucking ends. This leads me to believe that there was a concluding segment, most likely as part of the original cut, that wasn't funny and was trimmed as a result for time, or just thrown out entirely. Regardless, I'm very interested in the prospect of this or any unreleased Simpsons material that was recorded, animated, put into an animatic, or even written coming out to the public. With Disney in control of the IP, I would hope they do a raid of 20th Century Studios vaults, offices, and salt mines in order to attain any of this. Because if there's a whole different version of an existing episode somewhere, there may be episodes that are completely fucking lost. Completed episodes. If WB could get pressure to release that god god-awful fucking garbage Snyder Cut, and probably the even more garbage Ayer Cut, perhaps Disney could be pressured into releasing some of the never-before-seen material of The Simpsons in its prime. It's just something I think would be really fucking neat. Well, Halloween season's coming to an end, and it's gonna be back to my regularly scheduled programming, but I think I can pull one more little horror thing out for the next week. But in the meantime, if you like this video, hit subscribe, drop me a like, share me with your friends, send me your parents' brains, or write parents' brains on a 3x5 card and send it to Generation Y Entertainment, P.O. Box 8008135. Generation Y Entertainment, signing off.
Hey, monkey, you want a peanut? I said one!